What's up? What's up? What's up? So good to be here with you today. I'm Jennifer Bagley, CEO of CI Web Group, and joined by my co-host and partner in crime, not crime, but you know what I mean, Crystal Williams, CEO of Women's.
Hey.
Technically depends on the day. And we are very excited to have an amazing guest with us today. You guys, whether you're joining us live on live stream or you're watching the podcast later, you guys, we're in for a real treat today. We have the CEO of Rilla, Sebastian. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you guys for having me. Super excited to be here. And thank you all for joining if you're on live stream and for watching if you're on the podcast.
Sebastian, tell us a joke.
Oh my God. The best joke I ever told was when I told my mom I was going to quit my job to start a company, and she laughed a lot. She thought it was so funny, but then she stopped laughing. And my mom's Hispanic, and then the laughter quickly turned. We have like these chancletas, and then it quickly turned into like an assault with the chancleta. She's like, "What's wrong with you? You're gonna be." I told her I'm gonna be an entrepreneur. She said, "No, you're gonna be unemployed. Get your ass back to school." And so. Anyway, so that's
okay. So
it was a big joke for her.
I like that. So I was on stage one time, and there was someone from the audience that said, "Tell me how you got started. What was the one piece of advice you got?" And I thought back, and I was like, "Well, I sat in with my dad, and I was in my early 20s, and I was like, I'm going to quit my 6-figure career and benefits and everything, and I was a single mom, and I'm going to start my own business." And I was like, what kind of advice do you have? And my dad goes, "Well, it's going to suck. So suck it with a smile." And as I said it in front of 300 people, all of a sudden the whole front row was like, "Did she just say suck it with a smile?"
That's good advice from Dad. It's wholesome. It's wholesome.
My father's, yeah. What entrepreneurship's gonna feel like.
Yeah. No, my mom didn't get it. She was just like, "What? You want to be unemployed? I don't get it. We like you went to school, you did all this stuff, and now you want to be unemployed." So anyway, it was a big joke. But now we're good. It's every good joke starts as a bad joke. So it was a bad joke. Now it's a good joke.
Yeah.
Crystal, what do you get when you said you're gonna quit your day job and start your own business?
So my brother actually encouraged me to quit my job. My day job was with him. And he's like, "Hey, let's make a run at this together." So he's like, I didn't really quit my day job. I transitioned into a new day job. As I say, I entrepreneured myself right into another full-time job.
The way you said it sounded like your brother was trying to fire you, because you were like, "I was working with my brother and he told me to quit."
Yeah.
I'd be like,
He's like, "You should go to this."
out of here.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
It was an interesting thing for sure. So
Sebastian, you used to be a stand-up comedian.
That is correct. I was trying to be. Anybody who's doing stand-up comedy who hasn't done this Madison Square Garden is aspiring stand-up comedian. So yes, I was trying very hard to be a stand-up comedian. Yes.
I feel like there's
the emphasis on the trying part. Yes.
I feel like it had to give you a couple pieces that you carried with you, though, right? Iteration, the ability to pivot, take a tail whipping, the entrepreneur secret success.
I technically went to business school, right? That's what I did in my college. I went to NYU business school, and I learned a bunch of things about economics and business and stuff like that. But the way I run Rilla today, I actually cannot point to really I would say like 90% of what I practice today in our company comes from my learnings from stand-up comedy and not from my learnings in business school. Very little that actually matters. And then what you were talking about, Jennifer, it's like the ability to take failure in the face and just deal with it and iterate and learn from failure and be able to come up with things out of nothing. Very important to build products. In stand-up, you learn also that 60 or 70% of the job is actually not even being great at stand-up, but it's learning how to get on stage and how to do all the marketing and all the sales to like get yourself in a position where you can actually present your product to people, which most, especially tech founders, they obviate that part where they think it's all about the technology, but it's like, hey, if you don't have a distribution and marketing for your technology, then you're kind of screwed anyways. And so, yeah, a lot of learnings from stand-up. Most of how I practice my day-to-day in real life, it comes from my learnings from stand-up comedy. So.
What made you pick tech?
It kind of, I didn't pick, I kind of, it's like when people talk about like how they met the person that they married or they fall in love with, it that you don't pick, it just happens, right? It's just like you meet that person, you're like, oh, that's the right person for you, and then everything seems to have been like once you meet the right person, you almost think like, oh, it was fated because you retroactively define your past as if up to meeting this person, but it was almost very serendipitous, right? And so kind of like falling in love. So it's like tech. I didn't choose tech. It kind of chose me in a sense. It was like I was in an internship with a Forbes author when I was a junior in college doing stand-up comedy. This Forbes author needed somebody who was funny, who needed to write up jokes on his interviews with tech founders. He needed these articles to be funny and the interviews to be punchy. I took the job. The internship wasn't a real job, to practice my comedy. And I didn't know anything about tech. I'm from the Dominican Republic. I didn't grow up thinking that you could work in tech, that you could be in tech. I didn't know who Steve Jobs or Bill Gates was. I thought the richest guy in the world was Donald Trump, and the second richest was Vince McMahon, because they had a battle in WrestleMania 23, Battle of the Billionaires, and Trump won. So I was like, oh, number one is Trump, number two is Vince McMahon. I didn't know anything about these tech, like anything. And when I took this internship and we interviewed these tech founders, the way they described building their products and their companies was very similar to me to what I was doing in stand-up comedy, which is you have an idea, you launch it, you fail, you iterate very quickly, and you learn from failure, and then you create a product that's truly great that people actually get addicted to by this process of trial and error. That's how every major tech company started. When I heard that, I was like, oh, that's exactly what I'm doing in stand-up. And it sounded to me, it made complete sense. And so that's kind of how I started my first tech company. I just became curious about it after that, and then slowly curiosity turned into a passion and then obsession, and then it took over my life. So. Yeah. And here we are. Yeah.
Sure. So I'm sure that that's also become part of your culture in a lot of ways. Like how is your background influenced how you guys operate as a culture? What do you think some of the differentiators are?
Yeah, so we have a culture deck that we give to every person that's looking to work at Rilla. In our first interview, we kind of do our culture interview where we're trying to assess if people actually match our culture, and to let them see if they actually want to work here. And there's like the overarching principle of the Rilla culture is that we call it that we're trying to operate like a high-speed human reinforcement learner. A reinforcement learner is a machine learning algorithm that learns by trial and error. Every person that is thinking about AI out there, like ChatGPT and all these different AI mechanisms, the way that ChatGPT learns is through reinforcement learner. ChatGPT gives you an answer, and you guys have seen this when it gives you a thumbs up or thumbs down, and if you say thumbs up, ChatGPT knows that it won, and if it gives thumbs down, it knows that it failed. And every time it fails, it looks at that failure very intently, and it goes, "Oh, what did I do wrong? Let me try again to not do that. Let me not do that again." And if you look at a reinforcement learner playing a video game, for instance, you realize that it's not very smart. It's not very it's actually very stupid. It's kind of like it's kind of like teaching a gorilla how to read sign language. The gorilla can learn sign language. There's a documentary out there of a gorilla, but you have to spend so much time teaching the gorilla sign language because it's not that smart. The gorilla it's not very smart. It's a gorilla. It's an animal. So you can teach the gorilla sign language, but it takes you years and years and years and years of getting the gorilla to understand these things. The same thing with the reinforcement learner. It's not very smart. It's very, very dumb. And when you see it playing a video game, it kind of just starts making decisions randomly. And you see it playing a video game, it tries to do some things and it dies. And it just like a moron. But then after it plays the game a million times over, it basically learns everything of what not to do. Because all it's doing is it fails. It says, let me not do that again. Let me try something else. Oh, let me not do that again. Let me not do that. Let me not do that. And then through this process of trial and error. What was that?
I said it's like the hot stove technique. That burn. Don't touch the stove.
Yes.
Stop. Go another.
Literally. And so it's just doing that. That's all it knows. Not very smart, but it just keeps going and going and going. It's not shameful about the failure. It doesn't stop. It doesn't hesitate. It just keeps going. It's ruthless about it. It just keeps going and going and going. By the time it plays the game the millionth time, it beats the best human players, the most talented players. That's how AI learns, because it just tries things. It doesn't use a lot of intelligence, really. It's just trying out things. And so when you look at the best companies in history and the best founders in history, I think Thomas Edison, Steve Jobs, Elon Musk with SpaceX and Tesla, you see that they just do that. What makes them different is not that they're actually not the smartest people to ever live. If you actually measured their IQ, they wouldn't be like, they were probably like 130, 113, not that high IQ, like Einstein or someone like that. They weren't the smartest. They worked really hard, but there was other people who worked just as hard as they did. They were very creative, but the thing that made them really special, really, really, really special, is this ability to keep failing and learning from failure. Edison, with the famous example, 10,000 tries to get the light bulb to work, and 10,000 tries to get the light bulb to work. There's Edison for 10 years just failing in a lab, trying to make this thing not blow up every time you try to put electricity to it. And it was very difficult. Anybody else would have said, that's unreasonable, that's impossible, I'm going to stop here. This is it, I quit. Edison said, no, we're just getting started. The reinforcement learner, it needs to learn, it needs to play the game a million times to know what it's doing. And so at Rilla, we follow that to the T. It's like, hey, we want to hire. Yes, we need smart people. Yes, we need hungry people. Yes, we need hardworking people. We need all of those things. But at really what we need is people who are not afraid of failing and who are not afraid of trying new things and iterating quickly and moving really fast. And we need people who can move really fast. If you get somebody who's really smart but can't move fast, we don't want that person because if you're going to get stuck and you're not going to learn. True learning is not in your head, it's in the world. So because of that, you have to try things and experiment. And for that, you have to move fast. So it permeates the entire culture. We operate the culture high speed, reinforcement learner, failing fast, learning, and then making amazing things happen. And it's worked so far. So
yeah.
And then you have AI that's allowed you to do that times a million. Permutation.
Oh, yeah.
Permutation
Oh, my God. Oh, yeah. So like that's another component of it, which is like, it's not just like, yes, you want to fail fast, but you also want to learn fast from the failure, right? You want to, and if you can, so one thing you do is one input is you can work harder, because if you work harder, you're going to get more swings at the bat. You're going to be able to try more things, right? But the other thing you can do is you can increment your rate of learning from each failure so that you can kind of, instead of like taking it years to learn sign language like the gorilla, you can learn it a little bit faster. So if you put pressure on any one of these things, like working harder, trying more things, or learning faster from the failures, you're going to succeed. At Rilla, for instance, I'll give you an example in my sales team. We actually use Rilla for our own sales team. So we use Rilla for our own sales, which is our products is for coaching salespeople. I started selling at Rilla myself. Then we built the sales team myself, becoming the manager and so on and so forth. I always use Rilla on my entire sales team. We hire kids that are kids. I'm 28 and I call these kids. They're out of college. All of our sales team is composed of almost entirely composed of kids whose first or second job out of college is Rilla. Conrad, who's one of our top performers, he was playing lacrosse in college before joining Rilla. JH was a high school football coach before joining Rilla. Jacob was, all of these are 23, 24-year-olds. And they're so great at sales. They're probably one of the best sales teams in America right now because of how great they are. And one of the reasons for this is, well, they do a lot of demos. They do a lot of calls. We put them on calls, and they work a lot. They work a lot. They try a lot of things because they get a lot of at-bats, because they get a lot of demos. They get to talk to a lot of people because we do great in marketing, so we generate a lot of leads for them. The third thing is we use Rilla on every single call. So, for instance, JH, in a year at Rilla, he had taken about like 900 or 1,000 demos. So that's 1,000 at-bats. But every single one of those demos was reviewed by me and by my sales manager. And so not only is he getting a lot of at-bats and he's getting a lot of increased rate of learning from every single demo because he's getting feedback from every single time. And so because of that, you can get a 22-year-old, 23-year-old and make them one of the top performers in sales in the industry because they're able to learn so much faster than everybody else because they're getting all this feedback, all this insane,
the perfect combination of technology and human engagement.
Yeah. I mean, if he didn't work hard, he wouldn't be able to do it. You have to work. These are all necessary, right? But you also have to learn, I don't believe in this whole thing, like work smart, not hard. It's like, no. You work harder so that you can become smarter at what you're doing. Working harder makes you smarter.
I tell people all the time, like if I have to hit the gas for you, you're not it for me. please make me hit the brakes. Like work so
Yeah.
hard,
Yeah,
work
yeah.
fast, work diligently. Like if you're just floating along, like you're really just not my pace. I like grind and I like push, and I think that's what makes good entrepreneurs too. Like that's why sometimes we get so frustrated with like how fast our business is growing and changing, and how processes are, because we want everyone to move at our speed. And we want everyone to like make mistakes faster. Like it feels weird, counterintuitive to say that, but that's what we want.
Yeah, I was just adjusting the camera there. Sorry, you had to see my pores. I thought it was blurry. Now it looks better though. Like, why is he focusing on his teeth? It took out the blur. For those listening, it was very fun. You got to see my teeth. I try to go to the dentist. So
We're going to see the perfect day.
yeah. No, but Crystal, what you're saying there, it's like the whole thing is like if you don't, the smartest people I know who are the best entrepreneur also happen to be the hardest workers, and that's not a coincidence, and that's because, again, going back to the same thing, true intelligence is not in your head. You cannot take the smartest people in the world and sit them in a room and say, hey, come up with a solution to the world's problems. It doesn't work because the world is not rational. The solutions that you think that are going to solve things are actually, you have to go and try them out and learn truly from experimentation, from true trial and error. And if you accept that true learning is not in your head, it's in the world, well, then you have to work as hard as humanly possible to get ahead, because the harder you work, the more you're going to be able to learn. Right? It's like the whole thing about Edison saying it's like 1% inspiration, 99% perspiration, and perspiration is just like trialing and error and trialing and error and trialing and error. So the whole work smart, not hard doesn't make any sense, because if you work less hard, you're going to be an intelligent idiot. You're going to have a lot of ideas in your head that are all unfounded, not based on reality, because you haven't tried anything.
So I have a question. You guys, did you choose the home services industry as the starting point? And if so,
No.
I was going to say, if so, are they the most rapid to evolve and change and the most forward thinking? And
so
technology adoptions, like where did you guys start? What was the industry you said, this is the group of human beings who have the propensity to value this technology and to move this rapidly and create change intentionally fast?
Yeah, so I'll talk a little bit about the Rilla product specifically, why it's really important for home services specifically. And I'll talk a little bit about the home services industry and why it's really ripe for technology right now beyond Rilla. Mm-hmm. So Rilla did not start selling this product to home services contractors. We did not start there. We started Rilla in 2019. I had the idea for Rilla. The idea was, we actually started for a different use case. It was for food and beverage companies. I had a previous startup right out of college. I graduated in 2018. I started my first company with $10,000 my university gave me. Yeah, it was like some political canvassing, and then we turned the political. It was like 2018. I was at NYU, and we were like, tech for politics is hot. Yeah, hey, grassroots movements, tech for politics. Yeah, and then I let's build a canvassing tool. And then it was and this was a very good, my biggest learning from that company that I started right out of college. It was that the best companies are founded on not just creating great products, but finding the best markets. And so what I realized there is how much markets matter, because we built this product, we sold it to political campaigns. For 3 months, we made like $300 a month for like 3 months that we sold it. And then the midterm elections ended in 2018. And all of our, 4 customers were like, guys, we'll see you in 4 years. Thank you. And we were like, crap, what do we do now? And so what we realized then, very important lesson, is that it wouldn't matter how good our product was and how great our team was. It could have been Steve Jobs designing that product, the political canvassing tool.
Wouldn't matter.
It wouldn't have mattered, because the market is really crappy. It only happens once every 4 years. They don't really have money to spend. They rely on mostly volunteer work. It's not a great market. It's a bad market for many different reasons. And so you're never going to have a technology that's going to succeed building for that market. And so we took that learning, and we started selling to companies that did field marketing, very similar to political canvassing. It's face-to-face marketing for home service contractors, where you go to like the home shows, or you go to like the Home Depots or the Costco stores, and and you're advertising there, right? Or Lowe's. And so for food and beverage companies, think of like the Red Bull kids who put on the uniforms. They go out to college campuses and they hand Red Bull to people and they go, "Woo, Red Bull, yeah!" So that's field marketing. We started selling our political canvassing technology to field marketing companies, and then that's where the idea for Rilla came from, because I realized, like, holy crap, Heineken, Red Bull, Coca-Cola, they have millions and millions and millions of conversations every single month with consumers. They're not capturing any of them. What if we could capture these conversations and give them some insights into their consumers that they've never had before? Like, what do people think about their brand? And when they try their product, what are people saying? What if we analyze the natural language of these conversations and gave them some feedback from true insights from their consumers? And that was the idea for Rilla. It was like, let's replace, it wasn't the end of ride-alongs. It was the end of surveys. The end of surveys. Right. Use Rilla to get consumer insights.
Right. Post-production information. It already happened.
It was directly from the consumer.
Right?
Yes. Correct. So it's because people use surveys, and I thought it was the end of surveys, right? And so we started trying to sell that product in field marketing, and this was 2019. And again, we found that there was certain things about the market that didn't work. The first time we launched Rilla was me and my co-founder Michael and Chris and Lucas. We were listening to the audio manually to see what we could capture from the audio. And all we heard was this girl, Caitlin, screaming at the top of her lungs, just like, everybody sign up for Cash App. We got free pizza. Everybody sign up for Cash App now. We got free pizza. And we were like, what insights are we going to get? This doesn't work, right? It doesn't matter how good our AI is. You ask it, what happened here? It's going to say, Caitlin loves pizza. So we were like, that doesn't work. So we were like, let's find a market. Let's find a market where their conversations are a little bit longer, a little bit more insightful, and where the employees are full-time employees. Mm-hmm. So we went to retail. We started trying in retail in January 2020, right before COVID. And then in 6 weeks, all of our customers went out of business. It was non-essential luxury New York retailers. All of them went, and we almost went out of business. And then 3 years of this, like, we just trying this market and trying this other market. And just the first 3 years of business, I like to say, was us going out of business for year one and going out of business year two and going out of business year three. and then we figured out after the retail that retail didn't work for many different reasons. There's many different reasons. There's technology reasons, product reasons, market reasons. One of the things in retail is the margins in retail are very low. Yep. So in order to pay for an expensive AI product that's at a cutting edge that actually is very expensive to run AI software and stuff like that, it's more expensive than traditional software.
And the turnover is really high.
And the turnover is really high in retail. Like the average tenure of employees, like months, right? Months.
Yep.
And so we were like, okay, I remember seeing this guy talking to an owner of a supermarket that we were launching with. And I was like, what do you do here? He's like, I don't work here. I'm a salesperson. And I said, what do you sell? He's like, I sell it. It was a Hasidic Jewish grocery store in Muncie, New York. That was our pilot customer. That's what we could find. and then the guy tells me I'm a salesperson. I sell these little Jewish candy balls. And I said, okay, how much money do you make selling these Jewish candy balls? He goes, and I go, I'll make $250K. I said, you make $250K? And he goes,
off candy balls?
Off candy balls. And I go, what? And then he goes, yep. And I was like, interesting. And I'm like, and you always come and talk to these owners. Like, yep, I got to talk to them. I got to make my pitch. And I was like, interesting. I was like, this conversation seems really valuable. And this thing. And so that's when we started thinking about sales. And then within salespeople, field salespeople specifically, we tried everything. We tried pharma. We tried medical. We tried food and beverage. We tried so many things. And the one thing that really stood out from home improvement was that this product of a virtual ride-along product, and when we started selling to salespeople, we started hearing this ride-along thing. Like, I have to go on ride-alongs to coach my salespeople. Any company that does field sales, any company that does outside sales, they have ride-alongs. And we saw this. At pharma, there's 12 million outside salespeople in America, and they all need ride-alongs to get coached. The thing about the home improvement industry in particular is that you care about ride-alongs insofar as you care about coaching, and you care about coaching insofar as you care about your developing your own people.
Yeah.
If you ask the CEO of Coca-Cola, and I've asked him this, I actually met him, Jose Silva, and I asked him, what is Restaurant Brands International? Sorry, that was the CEO of Restaurant Brands International, which is like Burger King and stuff like that. But if you ask these guys, CEO of Coca-Cola, who is your top performer? Who's your top salesperson? What do you think he says? He says, I don't know. It depends. Because if you could have the best salesperson in the world selling Coca-Cola in Williamsburg, Brooklyn, where the hipster owner has their own sugarcane cola that they grow out of their own toilet. If you're trying to sell Coca-Cola in that neighborhood, you're not going to be able to sell Coca-Cola because of the brand. And when you ask Coca-Cola, what are your top 5 business drivers? Number 1 is brand. Number 2 is distribution. Can we hit more store points across the world? Number 3 is pricing. Number 4 is shelf placement. Number 5 is in-store advertising, promotions, and stuff like that. Salespeople are like business driver, number 20, number 25, number 30th. And the same thing you see in many other industries. There's so many things that matter before caring about developing your own people. Home improvement is a people-led business. The best companies have the best trained technicians with the best customer service, with the best kind of salespeople. Okay. And so in home improvement, they don't just say we care about, they really mean it. If you see the best, I've been to some of the best shops in the country, Lee's Air, Any Hour. And if you look at how they train and coach their people, it's a whole industry that they've developed out of coaching and training and developing people. So when you have it's like kind of like going to the gym. Most companies that have salespeople, they kind of sign up for the gym subscription, but they don't show up to the gym. Home improvements are the bodybuilders of coaching. They're the bodybuilders. They're showing up every day. When you ask a home improvement, a really reputable home improvement organization, how often are you going out there doing ride-alongs? They say our managers are required to do 2 and 3 physical ride-alongs every week. We have these ride-along reports. They're supposed to submit scorecards. We have a process. They're supposed to follow it. We're always coaching and training for this process. It's an entire industry. It's not just that we say we care. It's that they really care. And that's super crucial for any new company, any new startup. You have to make sure that the problem that you're solving is not just a problem that your customer has, the number 1 or 2 problem that their customer has. And so when we found that in home improvement, it's like almost like that's when we found home improvement, that's when the product went from 0 to millions overnight, right? That was the 3-year overnight success when we found the right market, okay? And so then the home improvement industry as a whole, there's many different, just to tell a long story short, COVID happens. The biggest migration of people living in cities going to the suburbs since the 1950s. They're spending the most amount of time home ever. So that means they're using their appliances more. They're using their HVAC more. They're using their toilets more. So things are breaking more. You have to replace them more. If you're sitting in your in-home office, now you feel the cold from that window that you never felt before because you only cared about the window in your room. And now you care about the windows in your entire house. So you're more likely to go out. You're spending more time home using your things. You're more likely to go out and see HVAC replacement near me. Repiping near me, electricity, because you're using the appliances more. Then private equity gets involved. So much money coming into the industry. And what that means is that home improvement contractors, because they're well capitalized, there's people there was an article in the Wall Street Journal that says a new millionaire class, home improvement contractors. And so because there's so much money and so much capital and so much attention given to this space now, what you have is home improvement contractors getting so savvy about what do I use this extra money with? I need to invest it in growth, in technology, in new. And so what you have is startups like Rilla and Avoca and Chirp and Lace AI and ProBook AI and Conduit Tech. And there's so many startups now that are flooding this space because of how much growth there is here, that for the first time ever, you have literally startups like high-tech startups like Rilla starting to target the home improvement industry as a matter of fact. And so before it was like ServiceTitan was the only one, like the odd one out that really came out here before anybody paid attention. Now it's like the norm. If you're going to start a startup, chances are you're going to be thinking about the home improvement industry as one of your first industries you want to tackle. And so those 2 things made it like the perfect storm for Rilla. That's why we're in home improvement.
Game on.
Yeah. So many contractors though, they they don't play the game, right? So a lot of times, like that old basic 3-legged stool kind of idea, as a contractor, you have to have all of these things going. You got to have your marketing going. You've got to have operations. You've got to have promotions. You've got to have, just a good company culture. So winning at owning a home service company is not just a one-trick pony. You've got to have multiple things going. So a lot of people will say, well, I just get overwhelmed with all of this AI that's out there. And my technicians don't want people in their pockets listening to them. And, people want to talk to real people and chat this and chat that. And I'm like, listen, You're going to be left behind. I call it blockbuster syndrome. You're going to be left behind if you don't start figuring out how to utilize things as a resource and not necessarily a replacement. Sometimes it'll naturally go to where it replaces, people, places, things, whatever. But really, as the home contractor, I really think you need to start focusing on how can things be a resource. So things that help your sales guy, like if you introduce the product correctly to your team, they will learn to adapt and enjoy what it does for their paychecks. I mean, do they all not want to make more money? Like, this is going to help them make more money. And so I feel like I always come at this side of contractors that get like overwhelmed or, I need to do this and AI that and, all this stuff. It's really mainly because of just fear of the unknown and this idea that like, that's not what customers want. And we're like, no, sir, there is a huge push towards it. So start now, early adopting and fine tuning, and not every new AI tool is right for every contractor. So figure out what works for you. But your sales team and your CSR team, those people, marketing is what makes the phone ring, but how you really move needles is an effective sales and operational team.
Yeah, I agree.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say, I mean, in our world, in our space, as a digital marketing agency, my team quickly understood there's not a piece of our business that won't be touched by AI. And if you're concerned that AI will replace you, just remember that AI will not replace you, humans, but AI will absolutely replace the humans who don't leverage AI.
Yeah.
Like
you'll be replaced by a human being using AI that will replace you. It's a human being
100%.
using AI.
100%. There's no, and I think that there's also in the industry, there's also as consumers, if you take the entire home services industry and you have a legit conversation with them as a consumer, them and their spouse and everyone else, and ask them as a consumer, what do they expect? Faster service, rapid response. I don't need you in my living room. Don't breathe on my table, right? I want my wine restocked with 2 clicks of a button, and boom, they put it on the right shelf with a good tip, right? And that can happen like this. As a consumer, we adopt all of these things and we appreciate this level of sophistication in the experience, but then we go back and put our business owner hat on and we're evolving at a much lower rate than we are even as a consumer ourselves. And that gap, not understanding what does the 20-something-year-old expect? I think every holiday is hysterical in my house because I've got 20-something-year-olds as my kids that work in our company. And then I have my mother and family on the couch, and they get in these debates that are heated about, my mom hands them a magazine and says, check out these recipes. And the kids automatically have a panic attack about too many ads, too much paper. Why would I ever do this? I can get a TikTok video in 2 seconds. These generational gaps, they're crazy.
And Jennifer and Kristen, one of the things you mentioned is like, that people just fear the unknown and they don't kind of, a lot of contractors, and not just contractors, just people in general. A lot of people in general just fear technology, and I get it. I get why they fear technology. It's not just unknown; it's annoying. It's very annoying.
Yeah,
it's so annoying. I was with Gary Vee out talking at a conference, roofing process conference, and he said this. He's like, dude, there's nobody who hates adopting new technology more than he, says Gary Vee. He's like, I had to learn how to get really good at mailers. I like doing mailer marketing for my wine shop with my dad. I had to get really good at that. And I got really good. I was one of the top people. And then Gmail comes out with all these newsletters and all this crap. And I had to learn. I had to forget everything I had learned. I was like, that's so annoying. I have to go back to square one of this new thing. And I have to learn how to get good at this. And then he got good at newsletters and mailers. And then Facebook comes out and Instagram. And I'm like, oh, crap. Now I have to learn how to do social media marketing. And it's always annoying. It's always uncomfortable. That's why they call them disruptive technologies, because they disrupt your work. They're disruptive. They're annoying. And so, but the fact of the matter is that business doesn't care.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
The economy doesn't care about you or about your. It doesn't really care how you feel about it. It's going to happen anyways. And consumers, like you said, Jennifer, they're going to want better service, faster service. Like that's just going to happen. And so it's not a question of whether it's not a question of whether you embrace it or not. It's a question of when, and if you're early or late. That's it. and if you're a little bit earlier, it's an advantage. If you're late, it's a disadvantage. So So that, but it is, I just want to, it is annoying. I mean, even launching a product like Rilla, it is annoying to have to go out and pitch to your salespeople and your technicians, hey, we're going to be recording our meetings now. And they're going to be like, oh my God, I'm going to be recording. That's annoying. I'm scared. It's natural. It's not just like it was annoying to implement the CRM and go from pen and paper to CRM. It's always annoying, but you have to go through it if you actually want to get the gains for the business. It's just what it is.
I do feel like this goes back to my dad's advice. It's annoying and freaking difficult.
Yeah.
Hard to start a business.
Yes.
It's like a while, right?
Yeah.
It is hard.
Yes.
It is. It is for sure. It's
We
just
chose
about
not-
embracing it. I mean, I made this comment the other day. I said, listen, I can tell I could stand up in a room and all of us speak. So we could stand up in a room full of 1,000 contractors. Maybe 5 of them are actually going to go do something with what we just said. Maybe 5 of them are actually going to go implement and do what we just said. The majority of them are going to sit back and be like, I'm not doing it, or they're too lazy to do it, or they have 50 objections, and they just talk themselves right out of good decisions every single day. And it's just like habitual, like what we see for contractors all the time is them talking themselves out. The best way to run a good idea is to ask a committee, because you're never going to get, if you're like, hey, let me go bring in a sales trainer, your team's going to be like, you don't ask the prisoners how they want to run the prison, right? So we've got to figure out, how do we lead our businesses effectively, be early adopters, be innovative, but at the pace that meets our team. So, you can't outpace your team because you'll outpace your processes, but there's a lot of power in really understanding like how entrepreneurship and running a business is really a collection of being successful and putting the right people on your team and the right resources and vendors so that you can have this well-oiled machine. Stop trying to do it all yourself and figure out how to just get down in the weeds, get going, stop talking yourself out of it.
Yeah,
I mean-
there's that's like one of the things that people do is that it's very, because it's uncomfortable to embrace a new disruptive thing, because it's likely going to fail at first, and it's likely going to be annoying to set it up right and go through all the implementation. So it's going to be very annoying. When you get into like design by committee and you start asking other people, like, how do you feel about this? Of course they're going to say, oh, I don't want, it's annoying. No, why fix it if it's not broken? It's very basic, like it's rational to think this way. Why are we doing this to ourselves? Why are we changing things? Why don't we just keep running? We are successful as it is, right? The problem is that's the Blockbuster thing. But Blockbuster, they were more comfortable running their business in the way that, like, making their retail stores very successful and working on the aisles. And by the time they realized that the disruptive technology had gotten really good, and that was the way of the world, they were already too late. And that's the problem. It's that
They waited until the bottom of the bell curve.
You can't wait until it's broken, because if it's broken, it's already late. You have to get it when the curve is kind of early enough that it's up and to the right, because if you're already going here when everything's figured out, when you realize, like, oh wow, the way we were doing things is actually broken, then it's already too late. And then you're already wrong, So
We're just in the last, we had to go through this ourselves. We've been a WordPress development agency since 2006, and with AI, this let's see here, in March we saw a press release that Intellimize was acquired by a major low-code environment, and we just had to rip off the Band-Aid. We have 25 developers sitting over here building WordPress websites, another 60 people in the background putting them together and doing content transfer and all that. And the one piece is, there's now the technology to be able to implement an AI-enabled optimization platform that automatically shapeshifts the website and changes the design and the header and the style and the color and the text and the conversion button on its own through rapid iterations. It can launch 60, it can launch 1,000, it can launch 10,000 different iterations of the same page. I was paying 3 CROs, conversion rate optimization people, to sit and work on 2 projects at a time for a 3 to 6 month period of time till they captured enough data to make an educated decision, to make a modification that then took another 3 weeks to implement. Or we rip off the Band-Aid and we invest like crazy into an entirely new team that's now going to build something
Yes.
that is smarter than the human. And this is an enormous investment on our part. Now we're running, you know, our old business and our new business at the same time. It is what it is.
Yeah, it's the nature of the beast.
It's like Jennifer, what you just said. This is why I was saying it's not just contractors; it's people. This problem that you just described is a problem that Google right now they're facing this problem. They're facing this problem of when you have a new disruptive technology, the worst thing happens when you're a really successful business, like really successful, and you've dominated your market, and a new disruptive technology comes in that shakes up, like just completely changes the foundation of what your business is built on. The best, the smartest, even the best founders. It's a book called The Innovator's Dilemma. I recommend it to everybody. It describes this particular dilemma that entrepreneurs face all the time. I've built a business with this old technology, and now there's a new technology that threatens this existing technology that I have. What do I do? Do I keep building and iterating on this path, or do I switch onto the new path that's going to be more disruptive? This is a very difficult topic. Google's facing this because Perplexity just came out, right? Perplexity doesn't have any ads. You ask a question, you get answers, you get search results immediately. Google has built their entire $1 trillion business on the back of you search something and you get links, and some of those links are ads. So there's like two middlemen between you and the answer. It's the link and it's the ad and the link. Perplexity is saying, hey, screw all this. We're going to give you the answer, no ads. And they charge a subscription, right? That's how they make money. And Google's like, our $1 trillion business is built on ads. So what do we have? So what do we do? They said they're facing this question, right? And because they're saying if we beat Perplexity, then we have to cannibalize our $1 trillion business. We have to do that. And that's a very difficult thing to do. That's what I'm saying. It's really hard. It's really, really hard. And so it's okay if you're feeling this. It's just you have to, and it's hard. I mean, Steve Jobs did it when he realized, like, holy crap, we have to disrupt our computer business with the iPhone and with the tablet. We have to do it because that's what we have to do. And we have to make it smaller. They cannibalize their own iPod sales. They pioneered the iPod, and then 3 years later, they're like, well, we're gonna build the iPhone, and the iPhone is cannibalizing the iPod. It's always difficult to do this, and it seems counterintuitive, but you have to do it. Otherwise, you end up like Blockbuster, who said, like, we're not gonna do it, and it especially with such a powerful technology like AI or something like that. It's just. I understand why people have this hesitation, especially if you're successful as a contractor already. It's like, man, it is difficult, but there's just no way around it. It's just very annoying. So yeah, it's just how it is.
You have these are huge things for people to process right now. You know, we can talk about all of these tiny little things that we can implement to get a little closer to a well-oiled machine, which that's what we're working on, right? Is how to improve efficiencies, reduce the amount of redundant duplicate processes, inefficiencies with human beings, replace those with high leverage activities that only human beings can do, right? They have two huge ones right now. One, obviously, the entire space. If you're a business and your entire business has been leveraged based on paid ads, LSA, and so forth, in Perplexity had the same volume of traffic as Bing in 30 days. This is. I was on stage with somebody, and there was another marketer next to me, and one of the audience members was like, I'm sure that all of this AI search engines we should be preparing for that. And the guy next to me from an agency was literally like, you don't need to worry about that. It's only 1% of the market. And I'm like, did you just compare AI search to DuckDuckGo? Don't do that.
Oh my gosh.
Stop talking. Yes, there are no LSA. There is no paid ads. There is no Google Maps where you actually have put your entire.
You just look at the growth rate. You just have to look at the growth rate to disqualify that.
Not this window of time.
Yeah.
This is not 1%. This is 1% in a very finite, amount of time. That is.
If you just say like, oh, it's 1% now, then how long did it take it to get to 1%? Months? And so like, oh, just fast forward 3 years and you take the growth rate constant. What happens then? How much market share is there? 10%, 20%? Oh, maybe 5 years from now. Oh, what is it? Oh, it's 50%. That's the majority. Okay, crap. Now we're too late. Now we're at the other end of the curve.
Yeah.
And on top of that, right? So AI in a 6-month period, just look at the last 6 months. Then take the next 12 months, right? What's going to happen? Just like Rilla, is AI will become agents that perform functions, right? Because AI is just a brain. But when you give AI a workflow and a set of instructions and the ability to access 3, 4, 5 different pieces of technology and then analyze the data and follow a set of instructions, now you have an agent. Now, if you look at Agents.io, that's going to be a group of agents that are given a Bitcoin account or a crypto account that have the ability and instructions to be able to go test other agents. So imagine Rilla and the next agent being able to test each other because they're smart enough to do so. They have the funds to do so, rate each other and see if they can get a better result by connecting the dots. Eventually, you're going to have a social media network that is all agents testing each other, rating each other, contracting with each other to perform tasks. That's where we're headed. That's what 2025 will bring.
Mm-hmm.
So, Jennifer, what you just said there about agents, I think that that's one of the overlooked skills that people are not noticing right now is the ability to be able to deal with assistants, right? It's like a lot of AI, and especially like Rilla, like a lot of these call center tools, is basically assisting human beings to do a job 100 times, 500 times faster. And the best human beings, like who's the human being who's going to replace the other human beings using AI? Is going to be the human beings that instead of, they're going to be the ones, they're going to be really good at delegating to these AI assistants the parts of their job. That so it's almost like having the judgment and the discernment to know which parts need to be automated, which parts do I need to do myself, how do I have to edit the AI, what instructions do I have to give, what prompts do I have to give the AI to do the job that is, how do I iterate on this? And so like what I would recommend to executives, companies like owners who have assistants, is I would actually encourage your team to learn how to handle assistants. And how to delegate, because that's the task that every single individual contributor in your team is going to have to. They're going to have to become owners of their own assistants.
100%.
Absolutely.
The human.
Sebastian, I think you have as much energy as, I felt like I'm low energy. You and Luke Gustafson from Blue Cardinal, y'all are on the same level.
He has more energy than me, man. I wouldn't even be sitting down if he was on. I'd be working out, doing the interview, dude. Just doing bicep curls. He's like, rise and grind, baby. Rise and grind. No, he has more energy than me.
I love your story. I love what you stand for. I love your passion for, and Jennifer too. Both of y'all are like super passionate about AI and early adopters and utilizing those things. And I just hope contractors listen and adopt where they can if they're at a pace that pushes them to think outside the box. So thank you so much. I felt like it was great.
Yeah,
it was so fun.
What would you leave everybody with? Like, now that they have a headache and probably need a shot of whiskey or something, but what would you leave everybody at as we just launched 21st day, second day, I don't know, of 2025. It's the third day. It's Friday. What would you leave everybody with as they move into 2025 from a personal and professional level, and most importantly, from a mindset level?
Yeah, I guess for the people listening, we've been talking about this idea of failure and kind of understanding the discomfort that you need to go through to apply disruptive technologies. It's all uncomfortable. And I guess for those people in that mindset already, like thinking, okay, I have these ideas, I have these initiatives that I want to launch, and I'm afraid and I'm fearful of the discomfort, my team. Here's what I will say. A lot of the ways that people justify their way out of a disruptive technology or something annoying that they know that they want to do is that, oh my God, but it's going to fail. Let me be straight. It will fail. The disruptive technology will fail in many different ways. You're going to launch it. It's not going to work exactly as you plan. You're going to have to tweak it and iterate. It's just part of the course. What I will say is failure is very cheap. It's not expensive. There's a great Jeff Bezos quote that says, failure and failing and experimenting, inventing in something new and trying something new is very cheap. Even if you fail. If you buy, let's say you start someone like Rilla and you buy the minimum subscription, it's going to cost you, a contractor that's doing about $5 million in revenue, it's going to cost you about $20,000. That's not cheap, right?
Not a piece of the salary either.
Right, but it's $20,000. You can afford, if you're a contractor making $5 million, you can afford to experiment with $20,000 just like you would on a marketing campaign. And when you are, and if it works, right? And that's what our customers do. That hundreds of technicians and thousands of technicians. They don't go in and they pay us millions of dollars. They try it. That's $20,000. Let's see. And if it fails, no losses. We lost $20,000. It failed. When it gets expensive, it's when it works. When it works, then you have to scale it. And you have to scale it, and you have to put everybody on it, you have to devote the resources. But trying it out doesn't cost that much. It doesn't. You can actually take, but what you cannot, the bigger cost that you're not, is the cost of not trying it. Yeah, staying the same is the biggest, because that's going to put you out of business. That's going to put you out of business. And so that's why the main thing I want to leave everybody with, failure is actually very cheap if you're just trying something out. When it works is when it gets expensive. But if you fail, try something else. It's very cheap. So go ahead and try it out. It's not that expensive. It's going to cost you a couple of grand. So just do it and learn. And
Yeah.
yeah, way cheaper than going out of business. I'll tell you that.
Way cheaper than going out of business.
I would absolutely. Right now, we're in an era where the cost of staying the same is going to considerably outweigh the cost of change.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
This is the moment when everybody needs to dig deep. Have a coming to Jesus with yourself. Oh, it's going to be hard. Suck it with a smile. Go into it knowing it's going to be hard, but the cost of staying the same, that we cannot afford to do. That is called natural selection, and this is the year for natural selection. Don't be part of that change. Sebastian, you're amazing. How can they reach you? Reach out to your team.
Go to Rilla.com. That's RILLA.com. And then, if you just search up Rilla on Google, you're going to see my face all over the place. And just, whatever. I hope my voice is not too annoying for the people who have been watching.
No, you're absolutely amazing. Crystal, as always, thank you so much. Thank you Sebastian, for taking a lot of your time. I hope this is very valuable to everybody that's on here watching or watching the recording. You guys check out the podcast, subscribe, leave a comment, drop Sebastian a note or Crystal and I a note on the comments on whatever your favorite podcast channel is. Until next time, you're amazing. Keep up the good work, man. That's golden.
Bye, guys.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate it. Bye.